Okay, so on behalf of Justice Vanguard, LaSalle, CCMVHS, and the community, I would just like to thank Maddie Miraglia to be here on a Sunday when she didn't have to give us her time, but she did. She's here. She's a fabulous teacher over at Mountain View High, and I would just like to thank you for being here. And so today, the main reason why I brought you here is we are currently in a battle to remove SROs from schools for a plethora of reasons. But I would like you to share a story you've come to me with of why the SRO program may not be the correct fit for our current schooling situation.
Thank you, Kiyoshi. So yeah, my name's Miraglia, and I've taught at MVHS since 2001. And I'd just like to share my perspective on things. The year before I started at Mountain View High School, apparently there was only one fight on campus. At that time, the school was under 1,400 students. And as we've become a bigger school, we've seen changes and we've seen more fights, but we've also seen more self-harming, and we have a need to address that. To my knowledge, a fair number of the discipline issues, fights, and stuff that happen on our campus are handled by our two security guards, Al and Tino. They're on campus every single day. They drive students in their golf carts. If a student has a broken leg, they'll drive them to class, or they retrieve someone from a class to get to an appointment with a counselor. They stop and they talk to the students. Kids seem to like them. Kids will ask them for a ride. Kids will joke around with them. They seem approachable. And they're a known presence on campus. When they catch students violating rules, I would guess it's still intimidating, but probably in a different way because they do wear a lot of different hats. The idea that a uniformed police officer, even if a police officer was on campus every day, that officer could play the same role seems dubious to me. Police officers are trained to be alert to criminality, and that's not how I want to see my students. I want to see the potential, not the pathology. If a student has had issues with the law in the past, but is trying to turn things around in school, then my job is to give them all the chances they need and not be distracted by what else they might have done in their lives, not see them for their worst mistake. Let me give you an example. A couple of years ago, we had students sitting on our theater steps during lunch and after school. It was a group of Latino boys, I think mostly Latino boys, and issues came up because they were acting out, they were catcalling girls. And this is not acceptable behavior, and the school let them know that. But this, to me, seems like a great example of an issue that can be solved best by our school personnel. The principal decided not to allow the students to sit on the steps anymore, and that was his solution. Now, it happens at the same time I was teaching the leadership class at Mountain View, and one of my students in the class was a Latino boy. He said to me that as a student leader, what he cared most about getting done in this class was a chance to talk to the principal and plead his case about the theater steps. So Principal Grissom agreed, and over 3 to 4 sessions, talking with Brian and his friends, they made the case to Grissom that they were responsible students and that if they were allowed back on the steps, they would make sure that they'd keep the other kids in line and they'd improve the behavior. To his credit, Principal Grissom heard this and he allowed them to have a shot at it. So one of the first days they were allowed back on the steps, I'm out there with the guys, just helping them to be their best selves. And the SRO comes up to me, starts talking to me, and tells me why he doesn't like this kid and why he doesn't like the idea of them sitting on the steps and the gang affiliation of this kid's uncle and this other kid's cousin. And, these are my students. So there's a difference. I want to see them as students, but the SRO, he's having a hard time not seeing them as possible criminals. And I just don't think there's a place on campus for adults to be seeing their students as possible criminals. And I don't think that influence should be in the conversation, because it affects how other adults may see them, how teachers may see them, how administrators may see them, and really it affects how the kids may see themselves. And no one should be worried in a class that they're being seen as a criminal instead of as a student. So thank you for hearing my story.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing. And just real quick again, I just want to say, so is it fair to say that people feel that the security that you guys hire and drive on the golf carts, people feel more secure with them than the police? Um, is it because they're more humanizing, would you say? Or is it because they are more a part of the community? Like, why would that be? If the,
For sure. I mean, like, I know their names and I don't remember the name of the SRO officer. So for sure, they're a big part of our community in a lot of different capacities. Look, I don't want to pretend like I know what administrators have to handle and when they need the officers there. But, you know, I've been trained for school shooting. I have some knowledge of this. And I think when we need the police, we would call them. But that doesn't mean we need to have an officer every day or even as an occasional presence. Because again, I can't even imagine what it feels like if your family has had negative experiences with police and then you see a police officer on campus.
yeah, I mean, I just also want to emphasize a point you made that I just can't, hold up and, scream and yell enough about. And that's the mental health of our students. We don't want to see our students as criminals. I want to see them as future scholars who have like the best life in front of them. I don't want to see them as criminals. And I certainly hope that our staff also won't see them as criminals. So, uh, I just thank you for, having that insight. I know there's a lot of people who would be like, oh, well, I see where the SRO is coming from, but you took the time to actually have the thought of, no, this is a kid just like, this kid who looks completely different from him, and they both have a bright future. And the fact that you do that is, it gives me great hope for the future. And I just can't thank you enough for being a great voice for our youth.
Let me just say one more thing, which is that, you know, at Mountain View, William Blair and other Terry Fott, different people have talked so much about identity safety. This idea coming out of Stanford from Claude and I forget his wife's name, from Claude Steele. And identity safety is huge, and a sense of belonging. And we spend so much time really trying to think about how to make our kids feel like they belong. And if they think that we think they're a problem, we've lost the game.
Couldn't agree more. So once again, thank you so much for taking time out of your day. Sounds like we need actually ethnic studies, but
That's another conversation.
That's another conversation. So thank you, Maddie, and enjoy the rest of your week.
Thank you.